Hi there, everyone. Librarian Barron Angell here with another board game demo from our Library of Things. Once again, Beth Pskowski is here helping me out. And today's game is called Codenames. Now, this is a little different from the games we've talked about previously for a couple of reasons. Number one, this game is aimed at a slightly higher age range. It's recommended that you be 10 or up to play this, so this is more of a tween-teen adult game. You're not going to play this with little kids. Also, generally speaking, you want to try to have at least 4 people to play this. There are modes for 2 or 3 players, but before you start amending rules to get into those, it's better to try the game with 4 players to understand the basics before you start amending things, in my personal opinion anyway. Now, this is a word game. I know it's a little hard for you to see on the camera here, but each of these little cards here has words on them, and that's a key part of the game. Now, I'm going to do this real quick just to kind of see what I'm talking about here. If you look in here, you'll see that there's words on all of these cards. See that? And there's a reason for that, because that's the basis of the game. Let me move this over here. There we go. All right. So, I'm not on camera. Okay. So, here's how the game works. The premise of the game is spies. So, 2 teams of at least 2 people each, a red team, and a blue team. And there are various spies in each one here. So you can, and there's different ones on the front and the back, so you can decide if you want to use the men or the women. Not that it matters. So, the goal here is one person on each team will be designated the spy master. And what they want to do is help their specific field agents, the other players on their team, locate their agents in the field before the other team can do the same. In order to set it off, the spy master should be on one side of the table while the field operatives are on the other side of the table. The spy masters will have one of these cards. And what these are is these tell you, based on the grid, you can kind of see there, they tell you which cards are which. So, for example, on one of these, a space that is blue means that that word is a blue agent, versus a red one is a red agent. Now, you might notice on these there are also spaces that are plain tan. Those are bystanders. They are on nobody's team and are neutral. And they're kind of funny looking. I don't know why. One space, the space with the X on it, is the assassin. You don't want to get the assassin, because if you get the assassin, you lose automatically. So don't do that. There is also a double agent. The purpose of the double agent is because whichever team goes first will have one additional agent on the field, as opposed to the team that's not going first. And that's supposed to compensate for the fact that they have to get one more because they're going first, and that gives them a little bit of advantage, so it makes it a little harder by having an extra agent. So, what will happen is you'll lay out words, and you just randomize the words, any old order, and the goal is that the spy master will have to give their field agents a clue. The clue needs to pertain to the words on the board. And what the spy master wants to do is give a clue that will allow the field agent to pick words that are their team's agents, based on the clue card. Now, once the spy master gives the clue, and they can only give one clue per turn, and when the spy master for the team gives the clue, the field agents can keep picking as long as they keep finding their agents. If they stumble across a bystander, that gets marked, and it moves on to the next team. If they stumble across a member of the other team, then that gets marked, you just helped your opponent, and your turn ends and they get to go. Okay. If anybody stumbles across the assassin, that team loses automatically regardless of who's been found or not found. Okay. So you want to avoid the assassin whatever you do. The key with the clues is that the spy master wants to try to give a clue that will relate to multiple words that they want their team to pick. So the spy master has to be really clever in looking at the words here and trying to come up with something that will relate to the words here on the board. You cannot say any of the words on the board. That is an invalid clue. And you also can't Like, I guess that's really the only rule now that I think about it.
Yeah.
You don't want to say any of the words that are on the board, and you want to be careful because you don't want your clue to potentially pertain to things that are not your agents. So you want to look very carefully and make sure the clue you're giving pertains to what you want them to pick, but doesn't inadvertently relate to something that is not a part of your, that's not one of your agents.
Okay.
So, for example, let's do this. So let's say that we're the blue team to start off with. Let's say we're playing as the blue team. Also, by the way, as a note, on these little key cards here, you'll notice there's colors on the outside. That tells you which team will start first, whether it's blue or red. And that is the team that also has an extra agent on the field, of course. And the cool thing about these, by the way, is that because they're perfect squares, once you pick one, there's a nice base. You can put it in the base so that the spy masters can see it and the field agents can't. But these can go any which way, which means each of these is actually 4 different possible boards in one. So you have a lot of different options for this.
Oh, there's a time.
There's a timer. The timer is not obligatory. You could choose not to use it at all, but if you're playing and somebody's taking a really long time and you don't like it, you can go pick something. And then you can even use it on yourself if you want. If you're having your own trouble and you want to give yourself a little more pressure, it's really just there to be used however players want to. It is not anywhere required. That's just there for fun. So, like I said, once the spy master gives the clue, the field operatives can keep picking as long as they keep guessing their agents. Until they reach. So, let me back up. When the spy master gives the clue, they also must say how many cards on the field that clue pertains to.
Oh, okay.
And then that's how many choices the field agents can take. If they get that many right, then that's the end of the turn.
Okay.
However, if you do not guess, for example, let's say I gave a clue, and either because you found a bystander or an enemy, or because at any point you can also choose to stop guessing if you don't have any more ideas. You're not obligated to take a guess. You have to take at least one guess per turn, but after that, you don't have to keep going if you don't want to. But if there are leftover words from a previous clue, like if they said, oh, this clue has 3 and you only found 2, you can always go back and try to pick that word later, if you remember what the clue is.
Okay.
And sometimes that can help. But let's say if the next clue was 2 and you picked the one from the previous, you've still only got one more pick for that current clue. So the number given that turn is still your number of picks, even if you're picking from the previous clue. But if you do manage to get all 3 and you picked one from a previous clue, you get 1 extra pick. So, for example, if we're playing as the blue team here, and let me see here. Let's see. Okay, we could try this. We'll do a blue team and then a red team one. So, for example, so once I give the clue, what you would do is you would then touch a card that you think it is. Okay? And then if it is, I'll mark it, or if it's not, then I'll mark it. So, for example, in this case, if I gave the clue people, and I said people 2. Okay? Yeah, so that's teacher. So that's one of our agents, so you mark that off.
People, too.
Yeah, so.
These are people.
Yep, those are the 2 that I picked. Yep. You could have also guessed Jack, which was a person.
Millionaire. I know, I was like.
Yeah. Now, I could have guessed Jack or millionaire. I chose to take that calculated risk because Jack and millionaire are both bystanders. So if you had picked them, it would have ended the turn, but it wouldn't have helped the other team.
Okay.
And that's the kind of thing. You want to try to make your clues as specific to your words as possible. And go from there if possible. Now, that would be those 2 were picked, so therefore that is
End of turn.
end of turn. I believe, however, where did I put that instruction book? Because I'm trying to remember what that extra pick, if you get that regardless of. Okay, you are allowed 1 extra guess if you basically if you get the number of guesses, you're allowed to take 1 extra guess randomly if you want to. If you have a previous clue, you can use that. But if not, you can decide to skip it if you have no idea and you don't want to take the risk.
No idea.
So that's okay. We're gonna skip that over. So we'll do that. So that would be the blue team got 2 agents. Now, here's the fun part. Because these words are now covered, the words that were there previously, you could now use those words as a clue if it helped you for other words on the board, because they're covered now, so it's no longer illegal to use the words that were covered up before. So if there's a clue you want to use, but it's on the board and there's a risk of it potentially being an invalid clue, try to wait till it gets picked later and covered up, whether it be yours or another team's, and that could free you up to use those clues later. So, for example, if we were then playing as the red team, this one kind of worked out interestingly for the red team based on what I saw here. But let's say for the red team, I said, and it's always really cool when you can get a bunch in one shot. Like we did 2 that was bad, but if you can get 3 or 4 for your team in one shot, it's really good. Like in this case for the red team, I could say animal 4.
Okay. Kangaroo.
Yeah.
Octopus.
Mm-hmm.
Scorpion.
Mm-hmm.
Crane.
Crane, yep. And crane is fun because it's crane. Crane could be the animal, or it could be the piece of heavy machinery that they use to build buildings. Depending on what's on the board, you could use that either way. It doesn't matter the definition as long as you get them to touch the right word. That's all that matters. So red team just got 4. So it's worth noting, by the way, there are standard 8 per team on the board at any given time, and then the team that went first has 9. They get that 1 extra double agent. So that's kind of how the game works, and whichever team finds all of their agents first is the winner, or if any given team hits the assassin accidentally, they lose and the opposing team wins. And you basically just keep going until everything is revealed, and then you can always reset it. There are 2 full decks of words, and they each have different words on the front and the back. So, for example, this one has brush on the front and then lock on the back. And it does have the word twice, so that regardless of which way you are facing the board, you can still see the word facing you, so you know what you're looking at. Even though it's a different font color, you can at least still see the words regardless of which way you're looking at it. The idea is supposed to be that the white version that's much clearer is facing the field operatives so they can see it, whereas the gray one is just so the spy master can keep an eye on what's going on. They do also give you a couple of blank ones if you want to write your own words in the game. So you can do that too. There's a few of those in here. And overall, that's Codenames. It's a fun party game, trying to work with your friends, trying to pick clues that they're going to guess, going back and forth. And like I said, it's a minimum of 4 for a main game, but you can go up to 8, in which case you could have the one spy master and potentially 3 other team members all trying to work together to guess words. And they can discuss it with each other, what words they want to guess, so on and so forth. So they can work together, and any one of them can touch the word to take the guess. They work as a team. There are modified rules in here. For example, on the back, you can adjust it to a 2 or 3 player game, which effectively involves something like we just did, where we are acting together as one team, and then in between rounds, a spy master would automatically cover one word of the other team as if their turn was taken. And then your goal is to find all of your agents before all the enemy agents are revealed. Same thing with a 3 player, you do 1 spy master and 2 people as the field operatives, or you could have 2 spy masters going back and forth, and 1 person being the field operative for both, a la the double agent. So there are a lot of ways you could play. There are also some other modified rule suggestions in the back of the book here. Things like, compound words, proper names, homonyms, rhymes, different rules about the clues that you can use and what is and is not allowed. So you can customize that as need be. And there's a lot of different customization options in the back of the book for what applies or does not apply. And some groups like to be very strict about what is and is not allowed in the clues. Some groups like to be more liberal with it. So really that's your choice as to how much you're going to allow for your spy masters. If you're new to the game, you probably want to play with a relaxed ruling, let them use what they need to, and then once everybody's familiar with the gameplay after a few rounds, then maybe of the next game, you can get a little stricter with it if you want to make it a little harder. Much like with all our other board games, this is available in our Library of Things here at the library. You can check it out for a 1-week period and just come on and ask us for it. Make sure you have just a valid adult library card. And it doesn't have to be from Florida. Any library in RCLS, if you have a card, Goshen, Warwick, Washingtonville, Middletown, any library in the RCLS system, as long as you're willing to come here to pick the item up and then come here to bring it back, you can check it out. And that goes for all of our Library of Things materials. So, with that all stated, Beth, thank you for helping me with the demonstration. It's a fun game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you play this with your family?
I was just thinking, maybe I should check it out.
Yeah, you want? Go for it. We'll clean it up. You can check it out. Until next time, stay tuned. Next week, in our next board game demo, If you haven't checked out our previous week's demos, by the way, do check out the previous board game demos. We've done Munchkin, Disney Villainous, Exploding Kittens, lots of fun games. Stay tuned next week when I will be doing a demonstration of our newest game that we're adding to the collection, and that is Cards Against Humanity Family Edition, which is a version of the game much more appropriate for families. Still not for little kids, but for older kids, you're okay. We'll talk about that. I'm also going to do one on Labyrinth coming up. And if you have any more questions about our board games, definitely contact us and let us know. And until then, we'll see you next time.